Hey everyone, welcome back to the CyberHub Engage podcast. It is our first Friday wrap-up of the year. I am so excited to be with you guys back in the studio. For those tuning in for the very, very first time, every Friday I get together with some of my favorite people on the planet. Today I've got Dan DeCloss joining me. He's the president and CEO of PlexTrac, one of our great supporters. We're going to have Dan join us here just momentarily. But our first Friday wrap up for the year of 2020. And Micah said something very interesting before we started our broadcast today, which is we're just as far from 2050 as we are from 1990. So for those of you who are sitting back and thinking of 1990, wow, some reminiscing memories that are amazing for all of us. Hey friends, want to talk to you guys about our new sponsor PlexTrac and its founder Dan DeCloss. So Dan DeCloss founded PlexTrac after 15 years of fighting with reporting and vulnerability management tools as a penetration tester and CISO. Dan knew that the best red teams not only needed a way to produce good, consistent reports quickly, but also wanted to be able to generate and catalyze the success of the organization they work with. That's why PlexTrac went beyond customizing Word and PDF reports to become a purple teaming platform. Through a central interface, red teams are able to report issues, blue teams are able to remediate them, and the CISO gets an overview of everything that's going on so he can report it up to his board, his stakeholders, and anyone involved in the organization on a consistent basis. As a CyberHub Engage listener, you get the opportunity to try PlexTrac for absolutely free for 1 month. No contracts, no credit cards, no risk, none at all. Simply go to plextrac.com/cyberhub. Again, that's plextrac.com/cyberhub. PLEXTRAC, no K in plextrac.com/cyberhub to claim your free month free now. Make sure you support our friends at PlexTrac. They have a great platform for all of you that are pen testers and red and blue teams. Make sure you check them out again. plextrac.com, no K in plextrac/cyberhub. Welcome back to the show. We are back. Effective Monday, our daily cyber briefings will be brought to you live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go now, click the bell. Monday through Thursday, every single day, you get this beautiful mug and all of our great content at 10 a.m. on YouTube Live. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're part of the discussion. We'll have some really cool segments, some really great content coming your way in 2020. We're very excited about it. But let's get into today's Friday wrap-up. Dan, welcome back. How is Idaho doing this beautiful 2020 day?
Hey, we're off to a great start. It's actually a sunny day today and not too cold. So we're enjoying the first working day of 2020 for a lot of us, I guess.
You know, I love the new year. And one of the very interesting things I saw today, kind of, you and I weren't talking about this, but you brought it into my head. I was at Chase earlier today. And Chase has this phishing campaign that's going on against a lot of their customers, where you're getting an email that says, Chase has recognized all of these transactions. Please reply here, and it takes you to a fake page where you log in your credentials. And I'm wondering how many people really fall for that, because around the holidays is when really a lot of this fraud happens, and that's crazy, man. That's just, it's so sophisticated.
Oh yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't take much for like that kind of stuff to work on a lot of people, right? They just play the numbers on that, and some of us may be pretty savvy to not enter in sensitive information from following a link, but it just happens so often. And this is like, we just kind of wrapped through the primary season for that, and then also as we get into like the return season where people are returning gifts and buying things on clearance from Christmas, it's still a prime opportunity for a lot of scams and stuff to be happening this time of year.
It so is. And this week, being that it was a holiday week, it felt like the news took a holiday, although not a lot of people took holiday, right? I mean, from a cyber perspective, we're about to realize, I think in the first next about 3-4 weeks, we'll hear a lot more about some of the Christmas activities that went through from a cyber perspective. But as we kind of go into today's episode, really, one of the stories that caught my attention this week has been, and over the last month and a half, has really been the multi-factor authentication. So a lot of times we say MFA, right? Security, have good passwords, have MFA. Chinese are breaking MFA. SIM swapping now is becoming a thing. Where do we get? I mean, Dan, what are some of your... What's your take on this? Is MFA the new attack vector? Is it finally a weakness? And then how do we overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always still going to be a good option, right? I would always still continue to encourage people to implement MFA wherever possible. I think it's the manner in which it's implemented. It's similar to cryptography, right? The concept is good, but if you don't implement it poorly, it won't work and do what it's supposed to do. And so, like, with SIM swapping, that's purely based on the fact that if I can take over your phone number and you're using the phone or the phone number itself as your soft token, where you're getting the code texted or you're getting a call, then that's really where the problem is from the SIM swapping perspective. So I think definitely implementing MFA using a soft token from an app, like using the Google Authenticator, Duos, Oktas of the world. That's your best bet from a multi-factor. But I do think that we're going to start heading into the realm of more biometrics rather than for MFA, rather than just a phone token or something like that.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I agree on every word you said. I think the one thing where I kind of want to issue a small challenge is, what's handier than a phone? Right? And
your finger.
But then we go to the old then we go back to the old thing of, I'm going to have to disable a USB port. And you're going to have to put in a device in your USB port in order to scan your fingerprint. Right? And at that very moment, I've essentially opened the whole old attack vector of put anything in a USB port, and that's the game. So is it disable USB ports, let your finger kind of be your authenticator, but then you're opening a new attack vector? Or is it like you said, a specialty app on a device that authenticates? I use Google Authenticator for some of my apps. I like Google Authenticator, especially for the fact that you can use it on multiple different apps and programs, and it's all in one app. But then at the same time, sometimes it's off. If you've got bad internet, if you're in a really, if you're in a bad situation, in a bad place with bad reception, that can hinder you. So, I mean, I get it. I just don't know what gifts from the two. Do you have kind of any feedback on that?
Yeah, so I think one for sure. I think we're both in agreement. Like, don't use your phone number as the way for getting those secondary authentication tokens. If someone's going to text, if a service is going to text you a code, that's not the best. And so we need as an industry, we need to get away from texting as the second form of authentication. I think that the soft tokens on the phone apps are going to be a very prevalent and good way to do it moving forward. Those don't necessarily rely on cell reception. Like they're just as if you had the RSA fob from back in the days. And so they're generating those tokens based on the clock speed and stuff like that, randomness within the phone itself. So I think that's a really good way to do two-factor authentication using a more token-based. But I do think that as more biometric technology becomes prevalent, there will be built-in mechanisms or separate devices that people will be able to use. The YubiKeys, I think, are a good example of those, where, you do have to now enable a USB port. So for some environments, that's not going to be acceptable, especially on intelligence or DoD type systems. But for the masses, I think that those are some better options as we continue to move forward. The biggest thing that we always, as security people have to keep in mind is the usability versus the security of any kind of feature or service that we're providing. So making sure that users are not going to get disgruntled with the new mechanisms, and therefore, find ways around them. We saw that with passwords and just trying to make them super long without, any kind of, and having tons of complexity without having any kind of way to make those easily memorable. So then we run into the problems of like people just use the same password everywhere, or have it be a predictable or guessable password. So those are the kind of always going to be the trade-offs, especially with MFA.
That kind of takes me to the next topic for our cyber briefing, which is, what happened at Landry's. And I love Landry's. I love Morton's Steakhouse. Like, one of my favorite steakhouse to go to is Morton's. Do you guys have a Morton's in Idaho? I'm pretty sure.
We don't. Yeah. So, when I come out to Baltimore, we'll have to hit one up.
Baltimore? I ain't in Baltimore. I'm in Atlanta, man.
Oh, why did I think Baltimore? Sorry.
I don't know.
Didn't you say you were going to be in Baltimore at some point?
No. Why would I ever go to Baltimore? It's a war zone. It's like asking me if I go to Kabul. Would you go to Kabul? Yeah, totally. Why not? Let me go to Baghdad while I'm at it. They're pretty
Atlanta,
much the same.
Much better.
Yeah, Atlanta. We've got Morton's. We've got a few really good steak places around in Atlanta.
There you go.
But Landry's kind of had an issue where I felt like people were blowing it out of proportion. For those who haven't heard it, it's they had a POS malware in their systems in a lot of the restaurants. And here's the interesting aspect. It didn't hit their stationary wait staff computers. It hit their mobile devices that were on Wi-Fi that were predominantly for order taking and bar orders to speed up that service. And then some of them had credit card machines, and those were the ones that were infected. Overall, I don't think this is as bad of a breach as a lot of people kind of make it to be. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I think it kind of highlights a couple different things, right? I think it highlights that you've got to have a solid asset management across the board, because they did have encrypted POS on their stationary systems, and those weren't affected, and that's where a predominant amount of the credit card transactions take place. But it just was in rare circumstances where they were swiping cards on these stations, or mobile stations that were taking bar orders and stuff like that. So I think you can't expect the wait staff to really know that. I mean, if you're going to put something in their hand that has a card reader, you better be darn well positive they're going to use it. So really understanding what your current your users are doing, and what systems they're going to be interacting with, and making sure you have good asset management around those. And I don't know anything about the stations themselves that were compromised, if they could actually have been updated or whatnot, but then it draws to the patch management and making sure that everything is up to date.
I think so from a perspective, and I want to be very even keeled here on this, meaning I don't want to shame the victim. I'm not the Maze ransomware guys, but I also do want to point out that it took them a very, very long time to find this out. Nearly 9 months in one of the cases. I think they said the first restaurant was really impacted January 18th. This wasn't discovered until nearly 9 months later. I think October 17th was the official date where they discovered this malware was in their system. A predominant part of the infection happened around March. Why does it take so long for POS malware to get discovered? I mean, they're not the only ones to go through this. I mean, we've seen this happen before, where this has gone on for a year and a half, and no one really picks up on it. What's the reason behind that specifically?
Yeah, I mean that's tough, right? Because I think that the predominant, or the average, time to discovery of a breach is right around there, between 6 and 12 months, sometimes 18 months. It's probably due mainly to the indicators of compromise and having alert fatigue. I mean, we are inundated with alerts and things to follow up on, and until you can actually correlate a lot of these events, you're not going to catch the activity. So it does come back to the reactive stance versus the proactive stance. And that's just also part of a cyber maturity, the cybersecurity landscape as well, from a maturity perspective of how many times you're trying to respond to events versus trying to prevent them from happening in the first place. And so everybody's kind of on that scale. And so really, that is the average today, about 6 to 9 months. And really, it's just a matter of trying to weed through all of the noise and actually tracking the signal that leads to, hey, you know what, something actually is really wrong here.
One of the things that's also very kind of disturbing about this is how many restaurants and retailers really do fall victims for these point of sale malwares. We saw that with I think Wawa, is that what it's called, Micah? From Florida. I'm sorry, from Micah. From Florida. It is Friday. So Wawa, chain of grocery stores, they also had point of sale malware on their devices, on their stationary devices. This seems to kind of be every week you see more and more of this happening. It's obviously lucrative for the hackers, but why is it so easy to go after retailers and restaurants with this kind of malware?
I think their exposure is a lot different. Same with like in the healthcare system. I mean, you walk up to a restaurant, that system is sitting out in the open. So there could be a lot more physical vectors that allow for the insertion of malware. They may not have as large of technical staff. It's hard to say. But I think primarily, where the hackers are going to follow the money if that's their motivation. And so knowing that these industries and these chains, these franchises, they're going to be a lot more prevalent, right? And so I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as easier. It's just they're a primer target because that's where the money is, and so that's where the attackers are going to put their focus.
The interesting piece about Landry's, one of the notes in the articles was, well, they targeted these really high-end business restaurants with corporate cards, so the cards aren't as scrutinized. You're a business owner, Dan. You've started this company with your own 10 fingers. Do you scrutinize your credit card bills?
Oh, I actually do. I'm very paranoid about that. So I'm reviewing transactions pretty much daily. Just as part of my job, but definitely on a weekly basis, we're reviewing all transactions, and I guess maybe this is a good and bad thing. We still have smaller limits on our cards, that we issue and stuff like that. So we're definitely trying to be as careful as we can. But you're right. I mean, some of those bigger transactions won't get caught for a month or two, right? Because they may be on a business trip, submit an expense report a couple weeks after they get back. The finance person may not review it until a week or two after that, and so at that point, they've had the card compromised for well over a month. So
yeah, that's it's really mind-boggling to think of that. When it's not your money, you don't really care as much. Think you're a founder of a company. I'm a founder of a company. I know my credit card. I mean, I get alerts. Anything. I set that up after Equifax. I've set that up after every time I get a data breach notification. I'm like, all right, I'm glad. Any transaction over $1, I want to know about.
Yeah.
If you're going to skim me, you're going to skim me in cents. Yeah. And even then, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Who charged me 78 cents? I didn't buy gum. I don't think you can buy anything in 78 cents anymore, can you?
Maybe not with a credit card.
Yeah, isn't I think Walmart might be the only place that'll let you buy something for 78 cents with a credit card. Or the dollar store, if they have anything under $1. Yeah, that's... Dan, we've started the new year. It's really exciting. Everyone's going back to work today, Monday. They're propping open their laptops. Maybe they haven't looked at it. The thing's been sitting in their backpack collecting dust. The laptop's like, ooh, this has been a really nice vacation. No one's powered me on, charged me up, nothing. What are some of your best practices in cyber hygiene as people get back to work? They're overwhelmed with emails. It's phishing season, literally, in that term. It's where a lot of attacks really do originate in this time of year. what are some of your best practices for cyber hygiene for people getting back into work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, good point. I think from a personal level or just an individual level, it's always a good time to go ahead and reset passwords. Just kind of make it this is the time of the quarter or this time of year where you can just go ahead. Hey, I'm going to go change a bunch of passwords, just as a good hygiene perspective, not because you've been breached or anything, but it's just always like a good kind of reminder. Like, hey, it's the beginning of the year. I'll go refresh my passwords on all or some of the more sensitive sites that I have. So that's one thing. I think too, from the security team perspective, it's really important to come back and start, analyzing some of the high alerts and really try to cull through those really quickly, because, like you said, the holiday season is when attackers are at their prime. They know that people are on a skeleton crew or a light staff, and so a lot of things may have gotten through the cracks these last couple of weeks. So definitely trying to be more vigilant around those activities and really trying to identify any indicators of compromise. I think also too, now is a prime time from a security team perspective to start sending out your phishing exercises. Start your employees off the right foot with like, hey, we're gonna start doing some phishing simulations just to keep everybody on their toes as they've been coming through the holidays. Other hygiene tips, would say I would encourage people to go and enable multi-factor authentication on sites where they can. Just do a double check, like what sites don't I have MFA enabled on, and go ahead and put it on there, because having some of it is better than none. So.
I want to thank you for that. I think the one thing I would add to that, Dan, if you don't mind, is don't open every email and every attachment. I'm sure people have hundreds and hundreds of emails that they're going through this time of year. Not every email, not every proposal, not every invoice is real. Don't go into the habit of just clearing your inbox. Really take that extra 2-3 seconds, hover over what email address it really came from. Look for any of those, kind of phishing discrepancies that would, be the tell-all signs of the, that file infected with malware or anything like that, and just really exercise patience. And I think 2020 is the year where we should take things a little slower and really kind of invest more time in being quality and efficient rather than just quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think being disciplined and being smart about just kind of the daily things that you do is always important.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on and kicking off the year with us. I'm so excited about it. We're super psyched about everything this year has to offer. For those listening, we're with Dan DeCloss, the president and CEO of PlexTrac. You can go to plextrac.com/cyberhub for a free 30-day demo of their amazing platform to kick off your year. Dan, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. I really wish you a very successful, prosperous, amazing year this year. And may all your dreams come true.
Well, thanks.
Did you like that one? Micah's just laughing here. He goes, what?
Kind of like vote for Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite.
Kind of like vote for Pedro. I mean, it's so hard to know what to wish people for a happy new year. What do you wish them? A healthy, prosperous new year? That sounds like so, I don't know, so like, yeah, cliche. Like, I want all, whatever your dreams are. I don't know. Maybe you have weird dreams, Dan. I don't know.
We've got big goals, and I hope we accomplish all of them. Likewise, I think I hope you guys have a successful 2020 and meet all the goals and objectives that you've laid out for the year. Really appreciate you having me on, and next time I'm in Atlanta, I'll make sure we hook up.
Yes, we'll go to Morton's, because at least I know now my credit card will be safe.
Yep.
It's like, I like to go to places that have been breached because I know no one's going to breach it again. They're going to be on like high alert.
They'll have a lot more protections in place. Yep.
Safest place to be after a shooting is the place where the shooting happened.
Yep.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. For those listening,
thank you.
For those listening and watching, Dan with PlexTrac. Like I said, you can go to plextrac.com/cyberhub. As you start off the year, red team, blue team, you're trying to increase your communication, get better reports. check them out. A free trial of their software for 30 days. It costs you nothing. I don't think you even have to put a credit card in, right, Dan?
Correct. Yep. Just hit us
Just
up
download the platform. Have a great time playing around with it. I know I've tried it. I love it. Other people who have tried the platform give it rave reviews. Not just saying it, guys. Really, it's true. Even the dog agrees with me. He started barking when I said it. It doesn't get any better than that, guys. Monday, we are live on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe now. Go to YouTube, look us up, CyberHub Engage. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell. 10 a.m. Eastern every day, Monday through Thursday. We'll be live on YouTube with so many cool things coming in 2020 for your daily cyber briefings, and every Saturday 9 a.m. for our CISO Talks. That's it for me, James Azar here, Dan DeCloss, Micah Smith, who is our technical producer. Happy New Year, guys. We'll be back with so much more on Monday. Until then, enjoy your weekend.